We are going to identify and locate a few of the more superficial muscles on the body. We'll start with the muscles of the chest and the back. On the anterior surface of the body, or the chest, we will see the pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, and serratus ventralis. On the back, or the posterior surface of the body, we will note the latissimus dorsi, levator scapulae, the deltoid, the trapezius, and the rotator cuff muscles. The rotator cuff muscles are the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, subscapularis, and teres minor. You will identify these muscles on the cat, but let's take a look at where they are on the human. The pectoralis major is this large chest muscle. It is superficial to the pectoralis minor, which is a much smaller muscle. And then we have the serratus anterior, located here on the ribs. As we look at the cat, the pectoralis major is a smaller muscle. It is still superficial, but it is smaller in the cat than in the human. Here is the pectoralis minor. It comes out from underneath the pectoralis major and goes all the way down here. In humans and cats, these muscles are used a little differently. The pectoralis major will adduct the arm when the shoulder is flexed. This is a motion you would do when you were reaching to open a door. Cats don't do that motion much. The pectoralis minor is used to bring the scapula forward. We use this some as we're reaching forward for things, but cats use this motion when they walk, so they have a much bigger pectoralis minor. In order to see the serratus anterior, which is called the serratus ventralis in the cat, we need to look at the side of the cat. So here is the pectoralis major and minor. This is the chest, and we've pulled some muscles back to display these serrated looking muscles, these finger-like muscles. These go to the ribs. On the back of the body, we have the trapezius. This is only showing half of it. The trapezius is a kite-shaped or trapezoid-shaped muscle. The deltoid, which is a triangular-shaped muscle on the shoulder. The latissimus dorsi, which is this big muscle that comes from your back around the side. The levator scapulae, which helps lift the scapula. And then your rotator cuff muscles. We have the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the teres minor, and if we flip to the other side, we can see the subscapularis. We see this one from the anterior presentation. In the cat, the latissimus dorsi is a big muscle, big flat muscle that comes up around the side. The trapezius is this muscle. We'll talk a little more about this in a minute. And then here is the deltoid, the triangular shape here. The levator scapulae, right there, still going to help lift the scapula. Now, in the cat, the trapezius is actually three separate muscles: the clavotrapezius, the acromiotrapezius, and the spinotrapezius. In humans, these muscles are fused into one large muscle. We don't expect you to know the subparts of this muscle, just recognize that this area is the trapezius group. The deltoid muscle in the cat is also composed of three separate muscles: the clavodeltoid, the acromiodeltoid, and the spinodeltoid. Again, you do not have to know the individual muscles, just recognize that these three muscles are the deltoid group. The levator scapulae is here next to the deltoid. Here's your trapezius coming down. Here are the deltoids, so there's the levator scapulae sort of tucked in between them. And then to see the rotator cuff muscles, we have to pull the trapezius back. Now you'll remember on the scapula you had the supraspinous fossa and the infraspinous fossa, above and below the spine on the scapula. That's where these muscles are located. So you can usually feel the spine of the scapula right here on the cat, and the area above that would be the supraspinatus, and below that would be the infraspinatus. The other fossa, the subscapular fossa, was on the other side of the scapula. So to see the subscapularis, we're going to turn the cat over. This is the chest area of the cat. Pull back the latissimus dorsi, and there is the subscapularis. Now in cats, the teres minor is fused with some other muscles, so we will not be able to see the teres minor in the cat. As we move to the upper arm, on the anterior side we need to find the biceps brachii. On the posterior side we will find the brachialis and the triceps brachii. In humans, the biceps brachii is the large muscle on the anterior. The triceps brachii is the large muscle on the back of the arm. These are antagonistic muscles to each other. The brachialis is deep to the biceps brachii. As we look at the cat, this is a muscle we do not have, so we'll reflect that back out of the way, and we can see the biceps brachii. This is the chest of the cat, so we're on the anterior surface. As we look at the back, we flip it over. Here are the deltoid muscles, those three deltoid muscles. And the brachialis can be easily found if you follow those deltoid muscles out. See how this middle one comes out and lays right on top of the brachialis. And then this large muscle underneath is the triceps brachii. We can only see two pieces of the triceps. The triceps has three heads. That's why it's called triceps. And we're only seeing two of the muscles, two of the different heads of the muscle here. The abdominal muscles are the rectus abdominis, external oblique, internal oblique, and transverse abdominis. Notice that we have a lot of words that tell you straight, diagonal, diagonal, and this would be across, transverse. In the human, the rectus abdominis is the straight muscle in the very front. Then we have the external obliques that come downward. There's the diagonal downward. The internal obliques are under those, and they move diagonally upward. And then on the very bottom are the transverse abdominis, and they go across. On the cat, here we have the rectus abdominis. This does not go all the way across the abdomen. Here is the midline of the cat. And underneath that, the first layer we can peel back is the external oblique, and those fibers are going to move downward. Under the external oblique, we will see the internal obliques. Their fibers will go upward. Now there's the rectus. We've reflected back the external obliques so that you can see all of the internal obliques here. Notice how these do not come all the way across, but this sheet of connective tissue that comes off the edge of this muscle is an aponeurosis, and it will come over and attach the muscle to the rectus abdominis. Now here we have reflected back the internal obliques. Here's the rectus abdominis, the external oblique, and here's the internal oblique reflected back so that we can see the transversus, the transverse abdominis with the fibers going straight across. These muscles are incredibly thin, and these function to help compress the abdominal contents and help you stand up straight. Moving to the gluteal region, we have the gluteus medius, the gluteus maximus, and the tensor fascia lata. In humans, the gluteus maximus is the large fleshy muscle of the buttocks. The gluteus medius is a slightly smaller muscle a little higher up. And then the tensor fascia lata is a muscle with a big tendon that comes down the side of the leg. This helps stabilize the knee. In the cat, we have the gluteus medius, which is larger than the gluteus maximus. Again, the medius is more superior than the maximus, just like in humans, but because of the way cats use these muscles, their gluteus medius is more developed, their gluteus maximus is less developed. This muscle down here is one we don't have. This wags their tail. The tensor fascia lata is over here. It's easily identified if you can find that band of connective tissue. Now here we see from the side, you can see the muscle part, and here is the band of fascia. So this is the tensor fascia lata. In the anterior portion of the upper leg, we have some muscles that are more medial and some that are more lateral. Toward the midline, the more medial muscles will be the gracilis and the adductor group. The adductor group includes the pectineus, the adductor longus, and the adductor femoris. More laterally, or to the side of the leg, we have the sartorius and the quadriceps group. The quadriceps group is composed of four muscles: the rectus femoris, the vastus lateralis, the vastus intermedius, and the vastus medialis. In the human, the sartorius is this strap-like muscle. This is what allows you to bend your knee and sit cross-legged. The quadriceps group, the rectus femoris, is the large fleshy muscle of the front of the thigh. It's surrounded by the vastus lateralis, which is on the side, and the vastus medialis, which is toward the midline. The fourth muscle, the vastus intermedius, is underneath the rectus femoris. The medial group, we have our adductors, the pectineus, the adductor longus, and the adductor magnus. Cats do not have an adductor magnus. The closest thing they have is the adductor femoris. The gracilis is this innermost muscle of the thigh. This is also an adductor type muscle. The gracilis is what lets you grip when you ride something like a motorcycle or a horse. On the cat, the sartorius is much broader, but still strap-like, and it comes down laterally. And the gracilis is also a very broad muscle, but it's still medial. These are both very superficial muscles. In order to see the other muscles, we have to flip the sartorius up and the gracilis over to expose these other muscles. The pectineus is a tiny little muscle in the groin. Right under it is the adductor longus, And these things that look like two separate muscles are the adductor femoris. This is similar to the adductor magnus in the human. On the lateral side, we have the vastus lateralis, the vastus medialis, and this would be the rectus femoris. In order to see the vastus intermedius, we have to flip the rectus femoris out of the way. So here's our vastus lateralis, this is the vastus medialis, and here's the vastus intermedius. We sometimes refer to this group of muscles as the hot dog in the bun. The three vastus muscles make up the bun. The rectus femoris is the hot dog. The posterior side of the upper leg has the hamstring muscles. The hamstrings are three muscles, the semimembranosus, the semitendinosus, and the biceps femoris. In the human, the biceps femoris are two muscles, or look like two muscles, here toward the outside of the leg. The semitendinosus is sort of a thin tubular muscle in the middle, and the semimembranosus is a flatter muscle underneath. In the cat, we can see the semimembranosus quite easily from the anterior side of the cat. Now there's the pectineus, the adductor longus, the adductor femoris, so this big fleshy muscle is the semimembranosus of the hamstrings. If we flip the cat over, looking at it from the back now, here is the biceps femoris. This is the largest muscle in the cat. Here is the semitendinosus. It's kind of a tubular muscle, much like in humans. And right here, peeking in between the two, is the semimembranosus.